Welcome to this week's episode of Top Deck Heroes with our friends at Rochester CCG. I'm Sean O'Brien. Kevin Broberg's here. He just finished some
Hello.
supper. And, of course, Matt Hughes. We're changing the
Hello.
format a little bit this week as part of our experiment. Hughes is going to be taking over as kind of the showrunner, keeping us on topic, chiming in when he feels that he wants to. And Kevin and I are going to be the talking heads, being very opinionated and telling people what we think of everything.
Everything is
So,
awful and you should feel bad.
So I'll get us started with our first topic tonight, and that is the Buffalo Empire Circuit that just happened this weekend. We all showed up and played, had a giant Rochester prize split in the end, as is our tradition, and talk a little bit about the decks we played. Kevin, why don't you go first?
All right, so I played a Pharaohman deck because kids don't know about Pharaohman though. I trolled the mess out of Matt Hughes with it. What the deck actually does is it just makes you make a lot of control checks, and then when you fail them, inevitably as you will, you just get punished a little bit for it. And it's pretty much just a life deck. It plays Revokes, Templars, and a couple, just attacks that try to let me poke people so that they don't know if I'm going to follow up on the attack string to really make them hurt, or if I'm just going to play one attack and end my turn, and then just build my turn to defend myself. Uh, and so I play a lot of Moon Tracers, a lot of Pharaoh Shot was a card I've been really impressed with playing as Pharaoh Man because it just makes them commit resources or else it gets sped up, and it speeds up my next attack as well, while also having pretty respectable damage for its difficulty. Um, and I mean, obviously the deck plays Pharaoh Waves because that card's sweet. You get to draw a bunch of cards. As Pharaoh Man, it's like an 8 mid for 12 if they fail all their checks, and that's just obscene. Really, honestly, it's crazy. But that was pretty much my deck. I mean, it played some ranged attacks, played some throws, just pokey pokey, and then try to finish them off when they tap low, trying to kill you.
Did you mention Hedonist?
Oh yeah, jeez, I forgot all about Hedonist. Yeah, so the big payoff for your opponent making a bunch of control checks is the card Hedonist, which is after your opponent fails a control check at any time for any reason, your next check this turn gets +1. So let's say they attack you, and it's some dopey, fast attack, but you have a Templar in your hand. It's a fast mid attack, so you need help blocking it. It's too fast for you to block without tapping foundations. So you just say Pharaoh Man, hey, will you make a check against a 5? And it gets -1 from Pharaoh Man. And if you fail, your attack gets +2 damage, which is good for you, but it triggers my Hedonists as well, so my check to block gets +1. Between that interaction and Dust in the Wind, the deck's actually pretty robust at blocking and defending itself. It's got a lot of speed redux, and then 7 hand size naturally has a lot of cards, and Templar gives you even more cards. So it's actually a pretty effective defense.
Let's see. The deck I played the Evil Gemini Man deck. I ripped right off of Keenan Reynolds, which, I mean, this
Well,
whole thing is
I
a.
ripped off Keenan Meadows. You just pulled it out of my bag.
Well, it's a
What
funny
were you going
story.
to play?
I was originally going to play Duo, and using Master of Magnetism and Mourning the Loss, make my opponent blocking low forever. It's
Was
kind of
this
a
plan
wombo.
A like a week before the tournament or like the day of the tournament?
Oh, so then like the night before the tournament, I didn't like the way Duo played, so I asked Jesse Cervini to borrow his Andy deck. Fairly similar to the Andy deck that won the PTC down in Atlanta, taking advantage of Mourning the Loss, Master of Magnetism, and all that fun stuff. And then I got up the next morning, got ready to get packed and ready to go, and I'm like, oh shit, I've lost Jesse's deck. So after freaking out and looking for it, we realized that Jesse had put it back in his bag. So then we got to Buffalo. I'm like, geez, I really don't want to play Duo. He's not quite good enough. So then I asked Kevin what was in his bag, and there was this Gemini Man deck. It was fun to play. I felt a little uncomfortable. I'm used to being 6 hand size with lots of vitality and not needing to block until I'm ready. But the deck was a lot of fun. Played Diamond Breath and Give Up Yet. So it gets you lots and lots of momentum to ice slasher people to death. I had a ton of fun with the deck. I'm probably going to go back to my comfortable, happy 6 hand size land.
The,
Not the
the
weekend's over.
comfortable B tier, not have to block, be underpowered. Hey,
That's my
hey,
deck.
Sean said this was a taste of true power. It was so like all of his rounds were done in 15 minutes, but he was stressed out for 15 minutes instead of being like, yeah, I'm playing Foundation.
Yeah, I'm used to playing, lots of foundations. I mean, ask Tim Keefe about any of my decks. Wall up and then kill you someday, maybe. Where that deck is kill or be killed.
So Sean,
How about you, Hughes?
I was boring. I'm antsy. I want Darkstalkers. I tried playing one of my decks that I've been working on without having the actual Darkstalkers cards. So I was playing Jack without the new throws and a bunch of other new toys that I'm going to add into the deck. Um, I was really wishy-washy, and I was nice to Giggles and handed off Snake Man again, and it won another event again. But quick question, because my deck was boring. Kevin, NJ Brock
Yeah.
wants to know if your Pharaohman deck was similar to the one he played in Atlanta.
Um, maybe I'm not really sure. I asked Garrett about just like some broad questions about how you actually, finish people off, and I saw him laying his deck out. I didn't take notes or anything, and I didn't have any specific advice. But it's probably, I mean, I know I stole Moon Tracer from him. I know I hadn't had that card necessarily on my radar, but it worked out really well, and I had it was like 4 Pharaoh shots, 4 Moon Tracers, 3 Pharaoh Waves, 2 Ring Boomerang, and I think there was another 2 of attack that I'm blanking on. So if that's similar to what he played in Atlanta, then it's probably similar to that.
I really like Moon Tracer in this meta, especially ours that always has a Snake Man running around. That deck's never going away.
Sure, it is.
It's
So they
set for,
ban him.
If you ask the rest of the world, it should go away as soon as we get our heads out of our asses and build good decks that will beat it every time because it's so underpowered.
oh,
Oh,
really?
yes.
Really?
That's what our friends from California say.
People
Alrighty,
just
so
block you.
speaking of things that are powerful, moving on to the summer state of the game. That's the big topic for discussion this evening. First thing that came to mind is bannings. Now, unlike some of our other people in the broadcasting world, we're not going to have a moment of silence or ring a bell 12 times for Mourning the Lost. We're just going to call it Mourning the Band.
Shame. Shame.
Shame. Ding ding. So, Mourning the Lost. We talked about this card last week. Jasco Games finally decided to take action on it. I don't really think there's much more to say except the card was really good. With Mourning the Lost, you started losing the game as soon as your opponent played one.
It's gonna be an exciting time this coming weekend when the California Scotts Valley Pro Tour happens, and they have to build their own new decks for a completely unexplored metagame that will be immediately invalidated this coming weekend. Will be invalidated already by the Darkstalkers pre-release.
Yeah,
Thrilled to
that's
see what people come up with.
It'll be just like that event they had in the UK last year. So we're done Mourning the Lost. One thing I find interesting is after banning Mourning the Lost, they are getting ready to release Summer Heat. That card's a 2/5, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And after you play it, draw it and ready itself during your opponent's ready step. It's like Mourning the Lost and Tribal Protector got a little drunk one night, and this is what came out. Nothing, Kevin?
Hey man, I'm just saying, Sasquatch's got a really pretty face.
He does. He's adorable. I mean, you
Yeah.
wouldn't say no to him.
Especially not if you're bawling your eyes out in the middle of the street like Elizabeth does.
So that's I think that card's going to be interesting. It lacks the "you're going to die now" ability of Mourning the Lost, but it's definitely a card you can play to draw extra cards. It readies during your opponent's ready step, so you don't get punished by committing it ever.
Yeah, and so I think it's nice that you kind of get the ability to. It gives you an advantage if you are able to spend foundations on your own turn. So if your turn is play a 2-diff foundation, another 2-diff foundation, and 2 1-diff foundations, you have one chance to check a three and have that matter in that turn. And so you're probably not gonna get rewarded by this. But if you're attacking them, you can play a 6-diff attack and almost always commit one. If you're playing a 5-diff attack, maybe it doesn't commit 1 foundation costs on it. Now you're taking these slightly riskier plays, these more dynamic plays, and you're getting rewarded for it. So I think it's probably pretty cool. I'm excited to play with it.
So that's Summer Heat. I know I'm probably jumping around here, but That's a card I wanted to make mention of. We get one and we're getting another one. Oh, look, and it's got the all symbol. Shocking,
The way
because
it's meant to be
that symbol
played.
needs any more tools.
Well, hey, man, untapping foundations, that's part of all's toolbox, right?
Well, yeah, all has everything.
Yeah, it's all of the tools.
I like that it shares all 3 symbols with Templar.
It does. So the second banning kind of surprised me, because I feel like taking away the first banning would make the second one definitely more palatable, reasonable to try out, but making playing Master of Magnetism more palatable still.
I was
That made
confused. I
no
thought you
sense.
said I thought you were suggesting that. Well, it would have you were confused by the second banning, so they should have just banned Master of Magnetism, and it would
No,
have
no,
been
no,
more
no, no.
palatable to just have Mourning the Loss. But you mean the opposite, where
Right.
we could have banned just Mourning the Loss and been, had an interesting and unique difference, that would really, I mean, echo throughout, and we would see things change and shake up, even with Master of Magnetism still around, but instead we just took off both.
So Master of Magnetism. This card, when it, I have to wonder what design intended with this card. I have to imagine their idea was build your own unblockable, using, other cards in the set to say, oh, you can't block on this zone, but you have to block on that zone, which is where it kind of became an issue with the Andy deck.
Right.
Because Andy's finisher says, you can't block mid, but if you're going to block at all, you got to block on mid. And so, interesting thought. Hughes was talking to me earlier, and he has some concerns about some of the cards that are going to become more powerful as a result of this card going away.
Can I talk for a moment about this?
Yes,
Yeah,
all
you're
yours.
fast. Yeah.
All right. So the biggest thing about Master Magnetism that I liked is they also released Leaf Shield in the same set, which is another Omni block similar to Peaceful Messenger. And then there's also just really good blocks like Team K-Dash and Templar, which are all these mid blocks. And
Hey,
Master
let's
of
not forget
Magnetism.
Winners Never Quit.
Oh yeah, I should know that card. I'm the only one of us that uses it. But all of those cards are really strong mid blocks, and if you use Master of Magnetism, you could, and then just playing highs and lows, just dodge all those mid blocks that people play that are really really annoying. Because the only other way to maybe attempt to stop some of these is Short Fuse, which will stop Templar and Wins Never Quit, but it won't stop Leaf Shield. So I think
Peaceful Messenger.
Peaceful Messenger. The bigger one I think is Leaf Shield, because Leaf Shield's never quite a dead card. If you have it just stuck in your hand and you need to attack, it's a 2 low for 3. That's probably respectable, especially if you're playing a character that has damage pump. I mean, you can throw this out in front of a Rain Flush when you're going on your kill turn.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the other thing is using this with Fulfilled in Battle to allow you to block and pick it up and basically just completely negate an opponent's attack once every turn for the cost of committing a foundation. And you get it back every turn. And if you're, I don't know, an 8-hand size character, rhymes with Tiffany Amber Thiessen maybe a little bit.
I don't know what you're getting at here, Hughes.
Tiffany Jamver, just maybe.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
I think that's just going to be really, really obnoxious.
Yeah, to beat that, you'll either have to string out a lot of attacks or string out a lot of fast attacks. Well, string out more like multiple fast attacks because 8-hand size probably has enough staging area to just block once.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a Gemini Man deck playing multiple 6-speed attacks, even if he has Zealth in the Wind and Matter of Heads and Tails, those will run out sooner or later.
Yeah,
but how many characters can do that? Gemini Man and Leona and a short list.
Yeah, Gemini Man.
Speaking.
There's 2 Gemini Men, right?
Yeah.
There's 2 of them on the card.
Yeah. Well, there's like 4 or 5, honestly. I mean, I haven't seen an air build recently, but I've heard good things about an air build, so there's that.
I'm working on it.
And everyone's sure there's the best too, which is really, honestly, really exciting in its own way. I think that's really cool that no one can agree on anything.
So here's a question for discussion for us, real quick, before we move on from the bannings. One of the things they mentioned is, this created the most powerful unblockable attacks in the Jasco era. Which I do want to remind that they did print Curse of Corruption, which on its own did turn into what, 5 low for 12.
Well,
So
3 low, but who cares about the
3
speed?
low for
Yeah,
12. But if it's
and had
unblockable,
breaker 3,
so I
breaker
mean
3,
that's a
and a
powerful.
very powerful, a very reasonable block modifier. Unlike Andy's +3 high, no keywords.
Right. So the question I want to ask you gentlemen is, do unblockable attacks belong in UFS?
Sure, why
Is
not?
there a place for them? The only
Absolutely.
issue the only issue I personally have with unblockable attacks in UFS is the way unblockable works. Which, if an
Yeah,
attack is
there's some.
unblockable, it says skip the block step, which means any effects that reduce it to printed damage or anything that would happen in the block step, you just don't get it. You
Yeah,
lose.
and there's some. It's pretty awkward how they implement that. But I think that, I mean, you want to have ways to, if you want to have ways for games to end, and you're concerned about people building these unassailable walls of 25 foundations in their staging area. No matter how much speed you put on your attacks, 25 foundations. You're not playing a 30 speed attack. That's not fucking happening. You're not playing 12 attacks at whatever. Like, if they have Templars, like, it just favors the wall deck in a lot of ways, unless you start building these dangerously powerful aggressive decks like Playful Slice decks or something that can break through them on turn 2 no matter what you do, and then that's miserable in its own way. So I think having this awkward off symbol 2 card combination that lets you play to an end game, I think that's absolutely a healthy part of that. That could absolutely be a healthy part of the metagame. That could absolutely be something that we would like to have around. Um, and I think that there's this concern. I know at one point I was talking to someone and I said, Kaplow isn't that bad if you take off Desperation, and they said, well, no, if you have an atypically attack that's playable, you just build a deck that only wants to play its atypically attack and just walls up and plays. You can't touch this for the entire game up until that point, and then wins with their overcosted attack. And I think that's a dangerous opinion too, to have that wall decks will always exist and it'll always be good, because I mean, you saw the decks from in Atlanta. They were playing 15 and 16 attacks because it's actually good to be able to attack someone if you want to, but still have that inevitability. It's a competitive advantage to not make your opponent's life easy and to have that option to go in on turn 2. And so I think that it's kind of this specter to just have a one-dimensional wall deck that wins with whatever late game card we're concerned about. Those decks should still play UFS. I think we've balanced the game well enough that it's still in your favor to play UFS on the way there to your unstoppable wall finish. It's like you can still get an advantage because the attacks aren't that good that it's favorable to just play concealed shallow swipe and not think about anything else until then. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Just me.
Your thoughts, Hughes?
I agree with one of the people in the chat, Dulon X, about how unblockables should exist in this game because unblockables exist in fighting games.
Damn good point.
Like, that right there should just make it so we should have them exist. How they should be implemented, I'm still not sure. I've thought about it on and off for years. I mean, I was okay with back in the day with Dirty Pool existing, which was just commit. Your attack's unblockable as long as 2 enhance has been in play this turn. But damage pump back then was also a lot weaker. So it's this issue of you have to keep things in check where if something's unblockable, you can't have too much damage pump in the format. Or you can't have insane damage pump like Mourning the Lost.
And well, I think also part of it is that Dirty Pool existed in a time when Yoga Mastery, Lost Memories, Ring Veteran, 7,000 other cards could fight over it.
Yeah.
And right now, there's like 5 or
Revoke.
something cards that can fight over Master of Magnetism. And there's a lot more. You're right. There's a lot more damage pump too. I think that I think it's good to have not that many cards that you play Grey War, so that you say I'm going to trade 1-for-1 with my staging on your staging area until all I have left is my cards, and now I'm going to beat you with all of my cards. that sucks. Um,
You know what I was thinking? What might be a good way to implement unblockables in UFS is giving them an escape clause, kind of like Pharaoh Man does.
oh, that'd be
Having
great.
having an ability like this opponent is unblockable. Your opponent may discard their momentum to cancel this effect. Your opponent may destroy 3 foundations. Your opponent may lose 5 vitality. And
If
I
your
think
opponent
that
passes their next enhance, this attack is unblockable, but less easy to do than that.
yeah, I mean, you can have unblockable attacks and they can be decent, and then just give your opponent an escape clause. I mean, unfortunately, if your opponent has their entire board committed and you're like, oh, this attack's unblockable unless your opponent commits 3 foundations. Well, if they can't commit 3 foundations and you're going to make it infinity damage unblockable, they're probably going to die anyhow.
Yeah, if they have 3 foundations up and they can't commit, they don't have 3 foundations up. I call that a 9-speed attack. If they can't commit 3 foundations to block, that's kind of a 9-speed attack. It's you need a 0 block and a 6 task, and you don't have those. That just doesn't happen. No one ever does that. 10-speed attack, whatever. We could be pedantic, I guess. And yeah, I mean, well, matter of heads and tails exists. Well, who cares?
Not for long.
That's just cheating. That's just cheating on what the numbers actually mean.
Silly theory that went through my head. What if we put in as a mechanic into the game where if an attack gets to X speed, it gets the unblockable ability? It's weird, but just something that went through my head right now that I wanted
I
to
mean,
get out.
I would be fine if Airman had a card that said if this attack speed is 10, it's unblockable now.
Ooh.
That would fit really well in his theme. It would be kind of pointless in its own way.
Hopefully, some designers listening to this show and maybe they could take our crazy ideas. So, Jiffany Jamber.
Jiffany Jamber.
Jiffany Jamber.
Jiminy Jillikers,
Butter
Batman.
jelly time.
Sandwich Lady. So, back to the state of the game, they're talking about how Jiffany Jamber is an experiment.
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented experiment. How do you guys think the bans affect the grand experiment?
I already voiced my opinion of where I think her with a Fulfilled and Bow Leaf Shield combo will just make her like this ultimate defensive deck till it's ready to go off with a billion Rain Flushes.
So, well, it clearly didn't affect the grand experiment because there wasn't a grand experiment until they announced it with the ban. So,
This is also true.
I mean, hey, it's cool they're going to put a watermark on her if she's going to be legal on standard because, I mean, we all joked that, well, my dirty pools are illegal now, right? Since they don't have a watermark either. I can play Tycho in this tournament, right? How about Tira? Is she fine? Yeah. Dalsim, let's go. And it's good that we're not going to have, just don't worry about it. Like these are not the watermarks you're looking for. It's good we're not going to have that kind of hand wave going on to just have the rules patch themselves because I say so.
Well,
I'm glad to hear that.
I encourage everybody listening to the show to build the best Jiffy Jamber decks you can to see if she does belong in our UFS.
Hey, here's what I think they should do actually with Jiffany Jamber is to release not an infinity symbol Jiffany Jamber, but Jiffany Jamber 2 dot, 3 dot, and 4 dot with 3 different sets of symbols so that you actually cover all 12 symbols. But now, like air and evil get to fight each other for diversity, and then like air and life don't. They don't have to. Be a little less miserable if she's actually good, which she is.
So the next item
wouldn't it be awful if we had another Marathi situation like at I think it was Worlds 2010 where there were 3 Marathis in contention for top 8 on all 3 of his symbols and 2 of them got diversified?
Go diversity, go!
Hey, diversity's gotten better.
Yeah, I'm not trying to start a diversity fight. I'm just saying that it'd be awkward if there are 12 different Jiffany Jammers in your tournament and they have 1 slot in the top 8.
I kind of expect that to happen.
I don't think she's that good.
Really?
Well, at our Jiffany Jamboree event, where you bring your deck and we we slap the character out of your hand and say you're playing this instead. You didn't see that coming, did you?
Oh
Oh,
man, we
oh,
should
so
do
you mean
that for
Turbo?
day 2 of our PTC.
That's what I've been saying since Origins. Since we saw the card, we're gonna have the Jiffany Jamboree event where your starting character is Jiffany Jamber with whatever you had in your bag. I'm
Uh,
sorry if you built it around your character. You have 8 hand size. I would say.
I'm sorry. I'm just hearing this is the Turbo event over and over again.
Jamboree.
Hey, I'll play my Gemini Man deck and just always have a Gemini Man in my hand.
All right, that's enough about Jiffany Jamber.
Oh,
Leaf Shield this.
So, the thing I'm most excited about from the summer state of a game, reporting tournament results.
Yeah, we get a net deck more people. Woo!
Well, I mean, as everybody knows, Rochester is the most notorious for net decking. I mean, we give lots of support to our UFS friends so we can net deck them. I think it's
wait, it's a week later, up to a week later. Is that right? So if the tournament
That's
ends on
correct.
Sunday, they can have them up as late as the next Sunday. So it's not in time for the next weekend. That sucks. JC, you should look into that. Make it like Friday night, please.
yeah. I
can
mean,
do it. I can do it Saturday morning.
I do like that results have to be posted within 48 hours, and the deck list's got to be up within a week because even if you aren't a ruthless net decker like I am, people want to know, especially I think for newer players, I think it's really good to know what's actually good in UFS. Because
Yeah.
if you've got your small play group in some obscure place, let's say Montana, no one lives in Montana, and they're playing UFS and they think that Benny Maru is good.
If you build a UFS deck and there's less than 30 attacks, it's just trash. You should just go home and pack it up because it's not going to be able to do anything. It's just bad. 30 attacks is the minimum number. And if they think that, and then they go online and one of them tries to explore the realm of ideas and connect with everyone else, maybe they can post on the forums and have 12 replies tearing them a new asshole, or they can just look up the deck list and say, well, what does Keenan Meadows know that we don't? That he's playing like 17 attacks. That's like half as many attacks as we're playing. What's different? And then try to figure it out that way.
I think that's going to be really good for new players trying to learn what are good UFS decks, what should I play to be competitive. Because I can think of a lot of times over the years when a new player is showing up to a tournament with cards in their deck that are just absolutely laughable. Like the card Laughable.
Hey, that card that's a role player, sir. That's a very weak role player. But if you want to block with all the cards in your hand, it's great.
I'm pretty sure that Laughable won our Soul Calibur pre-release back in the day.
It's sealed.
That's like being principal of a home school. Not that hard.
I mean, that's like saying, well, my Miser deck won the good attack of power, or like whatever symbol or the good patch event. Therefore, Miser was great, which she was, but that's not the point.
Didn't she
Or
make
that
top
DJ
four
is the
Worlds
best
one
character
year?
because he won water.
Yeah.
So,
The Dread Carnival, the event.
but I think this is all very good things. I think, and I also like that there is a penalty for non-compliance. I mean, we can't run our events like we're running them. We're trying to like run a business out of the back of a truck anymore. We have to do things officially. We got to be intelligent at how we do things. We need to show the world if we want to be the number 4 card game. We need to show the world that we actually take our events seriously. And that was Jason's charge last year at Buka was we're going to be the number 4 card game in the world. These are the kind of things that need to happen. We need to have coverage. We need to have judges who show up on time. We need to know what the prizes are going to be for the tournament before it starts so everybody's not unsure if they want to play. Things need to be defined, and we have to stick to it. And that's how we become the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, or the number 1 sized card game in the world, which I think is what we all really want.
I'm raising my hand even though you can't see me. What do you think's number 3? Magic,
Who's
Yu-Gi-Oh! What's number 3 in your mind?
Pokemans.
Really?
Pokey and the man.
I would say it's Vanguard.
I mean, there's an objective answer out here because we can just measure by sales volume.
Yeah.
I mean, there are card games that are bigger than us. We know this.
Yeah.
And I think it's no mistake that some of those card games have had a huge amount of success. And I think we need to take a careful look at what they're doing, what's worked for them, and try to emulate it. Which it doesn't mean we don't innovate. But they've done something right. We need to take a real hard look at what that is and find out how can we make that work for our game or how can we do it better. And I just went way off topic there. I'm sorry, gentlemen.
No, it's fine. This is something.
Yeah, we're talking about the state. We're talking about the state of the game, and I think the state of the game is interested is concerned with the same kind of things you're talking about with tournaments and moving towards something that's more consistent and regular and predictable, so that people who want to play can know when they'll be able to play. I think that's very valuable. And consistency is key in a lot of ways.
Any thoughts from the people in the chat before we move on to a pretty hot topic?
No, we're all just arguing about which one is number 3 and chanting, "We're number 4! We're number 4!"
Hey, getting 4th place in Mario Kart, you still get points online.
Fact.
As long as you're not the big fish in the small pond.
That's true. All right. Champ card rotation. This is interesting. So, Jasco Games announced in the summer state of the game that Champ Card's going to rotate in about 6 weeks, right after Gen Con. Do you guys think that that is too short of notice?
I don't like, and this was voiced by a bunch of people on the forums, and they're compensating people for this. So Jasco stepped up for it. How they announced this right after they reduced the price on drive-through for the champ backs.
Yeah, so was that like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was like 2-3 weeks ago they reduced it.
Yeah.
But they said anyone that ordered it within the past like week or two, I forget the exact cutoff date, that can send them the receipt saying, "Hey, we just ordered this." They're sending them one of each of the new promos that'll be coming out at Gen Con, of the Champ Card promos.
That's one thing I think we should. I know we talk about some hard topics on here so far, and I don't want to feel like we're just beating Jasco Games because they've done a lot of great things for us, and this is a good example because they could have been like, snively women like, "Yeah, I've got your money," and they're like, "No, you're right. This wasn't right. We're going to make things right for anybody who got surprised by this." And Jasco Games in the last 5 years has always been fantastic about this. If you get cards that are damaged or your ultra rares are missing, for the most part, unless you've been hounding them and seem to have a problem every single time, I'm sure that they've been pretty reasonable. Not to say that they've always been perfect. No one is. If someone wants to claim
we know,
it's a good challenge.
Yeah, so, Jasco, I mean, I'm happy they're stepping up to the plate on this. I think that it was just kind of an oversight on their part, maybe.
Yeah.
Or however it happened. I mean, I'm glad they're making it right for people who did buy these things, and we'll only have 6 weeks to play with them. I think that competitively speaking, I think it's. I mean, I think the biggest impact is probably the rotation of heads and tails. I think a lot of people. I've seen so many decks playing 2 and 3 copies of that unique card, simply because you really want to have one in play, and it makes it substantially harder to try to kill you. You can almost always block twice with a matter of heads and tails in your staging area, because you can block the first one, tap completely out, and then play your +3 block, reduce it to 0 speed, and check a 5 to block the second one, even with no ready cards at all. I think that's probably the biggest impact. I think Zealot Rush and the two assets, Zealot Rush and Napkin, are both like pretty much staples that you just kind of like slide it, that you see all over the place in all kinds of different decks, and just kind of slot in and improve things when you draw them. But I think they won't have as big an impact. Like, you won't miss them as much as you will with Matter of Heads and Tails.
Mm-hmm. I think a major role player that's going to be leaving, that's going to change the landscape quite a bit, is actually Last Ditch Gamble. I think that card enables a lot of decks right now to string many, many attacks in a row. So I think the Ettencells loop is going to be much harder, if not impossible, to execute. Cataclysmic Force. I mean, that card
I
is
forgot
almost
about Cat Force.
that card's a staple.
Yeah, there's a lot of staples that are leaving, Kevin. There's also
I
Nailed
forgot
It.
about Cataclysmic Force.
Nailed It.
Nailed it. Do you know what card's a real staple that I'm sad to be losing? Millennium Games and Hobbies.
Dude, I've won so many games with that card in my sideboard. You don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, this round of champ cards was almost a set of staples.
Yeah.
Most,
They were pushed. They were pushed. They were going to be cards that you could play and you would like. We wanted to make them cards that you could always play in your deck and never be embarrassed about. And the thing is that if you're never embarrassed about it, even when it's like poorly positioned, and then it turns out to be well positioned this week, then that's a really incredible card. That's just a card at a very high power level, and I think that these cards pretty much all had very high power levels.
Like
Yeah,
Napkin, Lion Stance.
I mean, yeah. What I find interesting is the number of escape clauses, really, in that round of champ cards. Manner of Heads and Tails is an escape clause. If attack gets too fast, you're going to block it. Not Last Ditch Gamble. Making a Killing. That card has an escape clause. If the attack is too high of damage, you remove your hand from the game and hopefully survive. Lion Stance has an escape clause. In fact, Lion Stance can have almost...
Yeah,
yeah.
It can't have almost any escape clause.
Not only that, but it's got an escape clause printed on it. As long as you have enough vitality to not die, you can gain it back if the attack's been pumped to a lot of damage. I mean, it laughs at multiple. So
I think actually you guys are absolutely right. I didn't take into account all of the cards. This is going to have a pretty big impact, I think. Although, I mean, they are spread across several symbols, to be sure.
What I want to know, more importantly than cards leaving, because I think it's going to suck for people in the beginning, like, well, we lost all these cards. I'm especially going to be upset of Napkin leaving, so I only have one event to use it with Saranagiri. But I'm going to have to do that. But I want to know what the new cards we're getting are.
Well, I know two of them that they aren't. Kevin's two cards.
Yeah.
3.
Well, somebody has to get his artwork done still. So if there are any good artists out there tuning in this week, get a hold of Kevin Broberg. He's looking for some art for his two champ cards?
3.
3 champ cards.
Jeez.
Well, you just won the one.
I was like, are you even looking at the Skype window? Come on.
No, not really. You know I don't pay that much attention to you. So, I think it's a big game changer. I think a lot of decks are going to lose cornerstone staples.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll gain some new ones. I'm just hoping that we'll be... like they said that they will be out for Gen Con and they'll be easily accessible. Meaning I think maybe they're encouraging some players to be nice with handing out their copies. Or maybe they're just giving out some copies. I don't know.
Or they're encouraging Rochester CCG to buy a shitload of them from everybody and then resell them.
But yeah, so if any of those
they
players,
can't stop you, Sean.
If any of those players that are getting their cards at Gen Con or before Gen Con, please contact me because I'd like to keep everyone, when I can, tell people. I'd like to tell people things. So that way we can have it very clear for Gen Con what'll be legal. Because no one wants to show up to an event and lose to a card they've never read before.
I would be absolutely shocked if the new champ cards are going to be legal this year at Gen Con.
They've said that they will.
Weird.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
I'm pretty sure they said they will.
Wasn't that in the state of the game?
Yes.
Oh, I should have read the whole thing. Lols. Okay. Moving on, now that I look like an idiot. We talked about the price drops coming before rotation. And how, Jasco's really straightened things out, taking care of the people who lost money in their champ packs. But how do you think that decisions like this can affect the secondary market?
Sounds like you're feeling a question for yourself to answer, Sean.
I am. Okay, so... well, not only, like, the secondary market the sellers, but the buyers as well. So I feel like this has a snowballing effect. So now, let's say I buy in some champ cards, and all of a sudden, people are like, oh man, I want to buy these second gen champ cards, but now they're not going to because they're worried that they're going to rotate all of a sudden. So then that comes back to me saying, well, geez, people aren't buying these champ cards. I need to drop the prices. I need to buy less of them. But there's, a certain distance down where prices go before people just buy you out. And then it puts the secondary market in a position where they can't acquire them for the price that they want to or the price that they're comfortable selling them at. An area where I found this, deeply affected my decision making going in the future. Not so much this time round, but back when they banned Kaplow and Paralyzing Touch, when their reason for banning those cards were they were too hard to find. At the time, those cards were selling at $40 a piece, and so reasonably, I think to get a player to part with them, I'd have to buy list them for 30 or more. But if I'm buy listing cards at over $30, it means that they're very rare. And now, as somebody in the secondary market, I'm concerned that if I spend $30 to acquire $30 a piece to acquire someone's set of Paralyzing Touches, are they going to get banned in a week because they're too rare?
Yeah, I think one of the kind of unstated costs of any ban, especially on a rare card, an ultra rare card like Kaplow and Paralyzing Touch, is the effect on confidence, and is like. And beyond just the actual monetary concerns that people have of, well, how much money am I going to lose when these powerful cards go away, is just people get attached to their decks too, and so even with I'm completely derailing us, so I'm not gonna. So like with Master Ranked and Mourning Lost, maybe people were attached to their Andy deck, and now they can't play it anymore. Now they're kind of disenfranchised. They have to find something completely different to do because it's such a niche topic, niche deck.
Well, and those bans don't even
concerns.
necessarily affect just, oh, I wanted to play a Mourning the Lost deck. I mean, I remember people who used to run K-Dash, and for a while, Dark Tide Summon became a real card again. And when K-Dash got banned, all of a sudden, K-Dash wasn't worth
Back to
anything.
trash.
Dark Tide Summon wasn't worth anything.
Team Psycho Soldier, no one really needed those anymore.
So it's a ripple effect, especially if some of those cards are becoming valuable, becoming things people want. Makes it difficult. Those cards lose their value, and so now instead of just losing, oh geez, my K-Dashes are banned, they effectively banned your Team Cycle Soldier, your Dark Tide Summons, etc., etc., etc. So, I mean, bannings have a long-reaching effect, and saying that we're banning something because it was too rare, that was not good.
Yeah.
Especially...
And then...
Sorry, I just want to touch on this because I was talking in the chat with people about it, about how that just seems like a really stupid, useless thing that was tacked on. Because also they were somewhat working on at the time, setting up the mini sets through drive-through.
Yeah. These are well in the past. I think maybe Jasco's learned their lesson a little bit. I definitely know that the summer state of the game was an enormous improvement. It was the communication was so much clearer, so much, it was like 6 words of each banning justification last year after Gen Con, and now they actually have fully formed thoughts, complete sentences. And I mean that sounds facile. That sounds like I'm making fun of them because they can talk in a complete sentence. But the level of communication was, I think, a major improvement from the summer state of the game. I think that was a big ups to Jasco Games for taking the time to actually write that out and make that a well formed piece of writing.
Yeah, I think that the summer state of the game is the best state of the game we've seen in the Jasco Games era. And I'd really like to see this happen at least once a quarter. I mean, I think making that in-depth of a state of game might be a pretty tall task on a monthly basis, especially, during quiet times when there aren't many cards coming out, where there aren't many big events happening. I mean, I think there definitely they should consider one after Worlds. Mm-hmm. Talking about what went well, what could go better. And
Yeah, see if we have
This is
another 5 game metagame or 5 deck metagame like last year that none of the 5 even won. One of them even missed top 8.
so. I hope they continue this because this, I think, well formed, well thought out state of the games is one of those things that's going to help us get to 3, 2, and 1.
I mean, it's not for nothing that Magic the Gathering, the undisputed #1 of trading card games, has like 10 or 12 weekly columns on their main website and has an absolutely enormous base of people writing articles about the game every day of the week, and on top of their video coverage, on top of their gameplay walkthroughs. They have a really that's part of the Magic culture is reading and writing articles and talking about them online. And I think stepping towards that, I think that it is very. I mean, to me, it has very clear benefits because I consume a lot of it. I'm a nerd like that. I read a lot of those articles, and I think that I barely play Magic, and I still know all this crap about it, just from just being part of that online.
So what you're saying, Kevin, is I should write more articles for you to consume?
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
I loved Arch's article about Duo, even though it was pretty much, here's what Mourning Lost did, and without Mourning Lost, I thought the deck would be fine, but it turns out it's not because of what Mourning Lost did for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think it's great to just lay those ideas out there and to try to spread them with the world. I think it was cool also that how different his deck was from yours, Sean. He was
Mm-hmm.
playing 12 Elizabeth attacks. That was his entire attack lineup. Yours is completely different in every way.
Yeah, I want to see more of these things, but like we were talking about with consistency and knowing what's going on and emulating what the other games are doing, we need to see less rotations announced 6 weeks in advance. I mean,
Yeah.
I like to look at Wizards, and for the most part, unless they announce a big change a year in advance, you know exactly how your Magic cards are going to rotate from now until the end of time.
They actually just announced a big change in how they're going to rotate this year. Actually, with the release of the first set that's going to be affected by it, they've had if you go for a solid 2 weeks, anytime you went anywhere, you would see the animated GIF of the old rotation schedule and the new rotation schedule, and it was plastered everywhere.
Did they announce it 6 weeks before it happened?
Didn't
Yeah.
they announce it
They
like
annou-
2
they-
years?
Yes, they announced it when the cards that were going to rotate were being print when you could first buy them.
Mm-hmm. And I know these kinds of things can't happen overnight. I mean, but these are the kind of steps we need to take.
Yeah, I think it's just it's the game maturing in its own way. It's management saying, okay, we're going to look further into the future. We're going to figure out things in advance, and we're going to tell people about them and communicate with people.
I mean,
having some last minute bans, that's something that can just, happen to Magic too.
yeah, I mean,
ban memory jar.
last minute bans I think are going to happen in every single card game. Rotation, not so much.
Right.
But I mean, to wrap up the state of the game, I think it was a great state of the game, very well written. I think they set forth a lot of clear expectations of what's going to be happening here in the future. What we can a little bit more about what we can expect from them, what we can expect from our tournament structure, and I think the feedback they're getting based on what we saw in the forums, what maybe one of them hears tonight, I think is they take feedback very seriously at Jasco, because our game is driven so much by the player base.
Yeah.
Between what we do here at Rochester, what they do on Thursday night over at Total Justice Gaming, what Piglet does with his Southern Fried interviews, what Magnus does on his interviews. I don't even know what they're called. Magnus's cell phone
on his channel, his performance art truly.
And all these things. UFS is so community driven. I always appreciate that Jasco does take what we have to say very seriously, and I know they're going to make things better.
And it has to be too. And I think that a lot, like the recurring thing I hear from people, like people who travel to all of these events, is that you can't do it for the money. That doesn't make any sense. You lose money on every trip, even if you win even if you win a $300 plane ticket. For me to fly to Atlanta, it was almost $400 just the flight, and then you had all the Chick-fil-A at the airport. It was like $7,000 already at that point. I went down there to hang out with my friends because the people who play UFS are an incredible community. It's so fun to hang out with everyone, to see everyone, and to catch up and to play the game. I mean, you can play a game that's, fun and dynamic and interesting, and it's called like Destiny. It's called Halo. It's called Call of Duty. It's called World of Warcraft. Whatever. You can play that online in your basement by yourself, or you can go out and meet people and see them face to face and have this different experience. And that's what UFS offers, is this great community. And I think it's really important to the game that we have this. And I think it's fundamental to why trading card games even still exist, is that you get to meet people in person.
What about you, Hughes?
I was listening to what Kevin was saying.
Don't worry, it wasn't
And-
important.
Yes, it was. It touched me, Kevin. It touched me.
Inside.
But no, doing too much at once. I apologize. What was the exact before he went on his thing? What was your exact question before he went on talking on and on?
I think I just moved on to talking about our final thoughts on the state of the game.
I enjoyed it. I'm just because I'm always a person that Kevin's likes articles, I like spoilers. So I just sit there for the first couple days. I was like, what's Ava do? What's Roy do? What's Summer Heat do? What's this other card do? Now I'm just sitting here nonstop. What are these champ cards going to do? Other than that, it was an amazing stay of the game. It's definitely what they needed. I'm just, if you mention cards that are going to be legal, be prepared to spoil them to me. Or,
hey man, I like ideas, and spoilers are cool, but they don't give me they give me a few ideas, but then they're done with ideas, and they're not new ideas anymore.
spoilers give me lots of ideas.
All right, so moving on to some announcements that aren't on our schedule. The first thing I'd like to announce is a special promotion we're doing through Rochester CCG. It's called Kevin's War Chest. So what we have begun doing is taking all of Kevin's prizes, instead of letting him open them and have fun and be happy, we're putting them in a big war chest. And you may ask, well, what's the war chest for? The war chest gives you an opportunity to steal Kevin Broberg's prizes.
To plunder my booty.
Ugh.
That came out completely right.
And so,
right.
what you can do in order to win some of Kevin's war plunder is beat him in a PTC or higher level event in Swiss rounds, and you will
we're
get.
doing this we're doing this at state circuits too, right? This is a new reason to show up.
You're right. I apologize. So anything that's an Empire Circuit or higher level event, if you beat Kevin Broberg in Swiss rounds, you're going to draw a lot from the mystery bag. That lot's going to have a number that corresponds with prizes in Kevin's war chest. These prizes include things like booster packs, promos, White Templars,
More booster packs.
more
Got
boosters.
Darkstalkers booster packs, Ruler of Time booster packs, Rise of the Masters booster packs, soon to be Darkstalkers booster packs. All kinds of booster packs.
How about
Except
a plane
Neomax
ticket?
booster
Is there a
packs.
plane ticket in there?
No.
Oh.
Those go to deserving members of the community, rather than whoever draws the lucky number 13 or whatever out of the lot.
Can I be deserving again this year and then I actually go?
You said no.
Yeah, I know. Instead, I'll actually go this year.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
I'm making money this year.
Great, you can use it to buy a plane ticket.
Oh.
So instead of going forward, if you're at a Empire Circuit or PTC or World and you get paired against Kevin Broberg, don't dread. Just beat his ass and take his prizes from him. And remember, those prizes you do get after placing an order at Rochester CCG. Just mention in the order that you have a lot number, and we'll ship it right out with your next purchase. So I'm pretty excited about that. Coming up, we've got some events going on. This weekend, I believe, is the Scotts Valley PTC out in California. Good luck to anyone traveling to that. I don't think anyone from Rochester is going to that. We have many booster packs of Darkstalkers to open this weekend.
Many.
I know. I saw Jeffrey Kahn's pile of 10 of them.
Oh, yes, his
10
pre-order
booster
from being the
boxes.
Turbo Championship.
Yeah, the Turbo Champion.
4 of
boxes.
which will be going to future Empire Circuit events. as
Very
per
nice.
the
That's right.
agreement that Tim and Tim made at
Prize
the
split.
end.
Yep.
So show
That's
up
exciting.
to our events, and there will be extra products being given out.
Making it rain, Darkstalkers.
We will be, I know in Rochester and most stores are going to be having their pre-release events this weekend. If you're in the Rochester area, stop by Millennium Games and Hobbies. It'll be $25. You get 6 booster packs in a draft format event. We're going to change the rules up a little bit, possibly. I haven't decided yet, to make things easier for people who are garbage at drafting. So stand by for that. I'll announce it if we do make that decision.
Oh, so like you, Sean?
Yeah, I'm garbage.
Exactly
We all
like
know
him, yes.
drafting. Let's see. After that, at the end of July, is Gen Con, the biggest 4 days in
Yep.
gaming.
Greatest.
And the World
It's
Championships.
the greatest.
The greatest 4 days in gaming. They might also be the biggest.
The bestest. The baddest.
I know Rochester will be arriving in Indianapolis Wednesday. We will be probably going to Kilroy's that night and getting
Come
drunk on the
get
patio.
Come get $5 Long Islands with us on the patio. It was a great time last year. It's a great time every year.
We'll get drunk and talk UFS and have a good time.
And eat pizza logs.
Oh, those are so good.
Right?
Oh, actually, I forgot an event before Gen Con. Our PTC,
Oh yeah, it's kind of important.
Jeez.
July
Way to sell
11th
yourself short.
at the
lead up
Brighton
to
Center in Brighton, New York.
the road
The
to Gen
event,
Con.
the event will be starting. Signups will start at 9:30. The signups will close at 10:15, followed by a brief players meeting, and we'll start at 10:30. I've rented the space through 9 o'clock that night. I'd really like to try to finish in one day because it was very expensive, but Magic's going on at Millennium that weekend, and they did not have the space.
Otherwise, top 8 will have to take place in either my house or Sean's house.
We'll make it happen if we have to.
I've got the tables
Or-
ready for it.
Or at a bar. Who knows?
So then we've got Gen Con. I believe Michigan announced their PTC in September
Yep, the last weekend of September, as is meant to be.
at a brand new venue.
Aw.
Previously, they played at Our House Games down in. For the life of me, I can't remember the town. I know General Custer was born there because General Custard's last ice cream stand is there. But it's up in Warren this year. I'm sure Friday night they'll do Bukas and Whirly Ball. Whirly Ball alone might be worth the trip. And then lots of great UFS being played that weekend. Looks like someone in the chat just reminded us that there's a St. Louis PTC in August as well. So if you're
fantastic.
in that neck of the woods, head on out. It's not too far if you want to go there from Chicago. I can't imagine it's that far for people in Ohio. I think that'll be a great event as well.
Speaking of people in Ohio, if Thomas Gordon is watching this, or if anyone speaks to Thomas Gordon after watching this, tell him to come to our pro tour. It's going to be great, and you should come. It's not that long of a drive. Drag Keaton Meadows out of work if you can, but he has jobs.
Drag him kicking and screaming. We want as many players as possible, and we will fill as many places as possible with people.
Indeed.
And come up for our barbecue and garbage plates, especially our barbecued garbage plates. The sticky icky plates. The stickiest of ickiest.
Another event I want to talk about is in November, the Rochester CCG 2K. Can't stress this event enough. It's part of my grand experiment to prove that big events with big prize purses can happen in our game.
To prove that it can be possible to go to an event and actually make money on it if you win it. Even if you're not from around there.
The first place person, the winner of the Rochester 2K on... it's the second weekend of November. I think it's the 7th. 7th sounds right. The winner will receive $500 in store credit from Rochester CCG. Everybody else in the top 8 is guaranteed at least a booster box. Any booster box that is in stock at the store. I'm going to give out a shitload of support to people who show up and play. You guys always know that I do. And I'd like to try to get at least 50 to 70 people to that event. So very exciting. If you want to book plane tickets, now's a good time to start looking because they can get pretty expensive here in Rochester because our airport's tiny and small.
International, but tiny.
Yeah, small international. It's like Belgium.
It's like going
It's
over the
technically a
pond.
country, but it's very small.
Luxembourg.
Do we have anything else to discuss tonight, gentlemen? Anything in the chat that we didn't touch on?
I think we got everything. Unless anyone else wants to bring something up before the 30-second delay ends.
All right, I think that's it for us. So, once again, thank you to everybody who showed up. Oh, I do actually. I'm sorry. I did see something in the chat. Luchador768. That's Jesse Cervini. You may recognize him from our friends over at Total Justice Gaming. He said he is willing to drive people from Buffalo to Rochester for our event. Thank you so much. And then, when is the event again? Which event, Frail Element?
He's talking about your 2K that we're talking about right now.
Okay,
Which
that is.
I believe the second weekend would technically be the 14th. Because November 1st is a Sunday. So
correct. I do apologize. It is going to be November 7th and 8th in Rochester.
Okay, so it will be the first weekend.
Yes, it will be the first full weekend in November. So, exciting stuff that I did forget to mention again, that at that event we will have free beer for people who are 21 years of age and older. On Sunday, we'll be watching football while playing because my Buffalo Bills, the worst team in the league, will be taking on the Miami Dolphins, the worser team in the league, the ones we can actually beat.
I would say that we aren't the worst team in the league. That would be Oakland, but we did lose to Oakland last year. So, yeah, it's us.
So, I think that's it for tonight. I thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, UFS. It's been a pleasure.